Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, 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 maybe, but yes.
There we go.
There we go.
All right. Chris, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So how's everybody doing? Welcome to podcast 43. We're here to discuss two Madea films. One being her big screen debut, Diary of a Mad Black Woman from 2005, and 2011's Medea's Big Happy Family. And of course, like always, I'm joined with Fulton Collins and a reoccurring guest from the past, Mr. Cody Workmans. How you doing, Cody?
Hey, hello. Happy to be here. Can't wait
We're
to
happy
talk.
to have you back.
Yeah.
And
good to
so
see you.
and so Cody, you're quite over the past few months, you've been quite well versed in the MCU, the Madea Cinematic Universe, would you say?
That's true. That's right. It all started when I was at Walmart buying groceries, as you do, and I came across the Madea box set for $35 on DVD. And I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And I bought it, and by God, I've watched all of them over the past few months. I've watched quite a number of Tyler Perry's other films, and I've really grown to appreciate these films in a very special way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we can just jump right into the first one, Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Cody, what were your first impressions of this film?
So this was also I don't know if this was the first Tyler Perry film that y'all saw. This was my second after what was it? What's that one with Taraji P. Henson in 2018?
Are you talking about Acrimony?
Acrimony,
Yeah.
Which it's just wonderful, filthy garbage. I just love it to death. So melodramatic. So this is my first time seeing Madea. It's the first film, that came out, obviously, directed by Darren Grant. And I was initially pretty confused. I had not realized that these films are actually really serious, and they're very melodramatic, and they're really like genre films. That's really what Tyler Perry is. He's a genre filmmaker, leans into the melodrama. And naturally, when you think Madea, you think this is some crazy, cartoonish, insane comedy. And eventually he does start to do that. But this film is really a devastating, kind of heartbreaking, at times really, really hard to watch film. That's kind of intercut with this insane Baroque style of comedy that comes in through the form of Madea that is so fascinating. When I first saw the film, I was put off a little bit. I didn't really know kind of what to do with this. I certainly was entertained, but I was left a little puzzled. And since I have completed the journey with Madea, I have grown very, very fond of this particular film. I think it actually really helps that Tyler Perry's not the director here. I think there's a little bit more of a visual flair that you get in this film that you're going to not get with, say, Medea's Medea's Family Reunion, and to an extent, Medea's Big Happy Family. I do think Madea Goes to Jail is an exceptionally looking film.
I've seen Madea Goes to Jail.
Right.
I've seen it as a kid, but I don't remember too much about it. I think that may have actually been my first Madea film. So I've seen a ton of these as like when I was younger, because I would always watch them with my family. But so coming to this one, that first kind of maybe like 20 or 30 minutes of Diary, it kind of feels like what you would expect. And then when I forget the character's name, who's the lead in this film?
I believe it's Helen, right?
Helen,
played by Kimberly Elise.
Yeah. So then when we finally kind of focus on Helen's story arc, it goes in a very different direction. And it almost kind of I agree with you, Cody. It kind of takes you in a different route. Because to me, I'm trying to kind of bring my thoughts together. So everything in this film, I think I would say that I like, but I'm not sure. I feel a little iffy on some of the dialogue. And like that first 30 minutes is so tight, and I feel like it sets up the film really, really well. Because you have is his name Calvin? I'm forgetting the
Charles.
Charles. Yeah,
And he's just like he's
he's
just
an
like
ass.
he's just like cartoonishly like the biggest
So
dick.
Like,
He's
just
so bad,
the
man.
most evil
Yeah,
man in
yeah.
the world.
And
Just
then so then just because I really want to talk about this and I really want to pick your guys' brain on it. Charles divorces Helen, and then he hires this man Orlando to kind of move all her stuff out. And then we have the first kind of interaction between Helen and Orlando. And this is like where I kind of get a little iffy with the film, because Orlando keeps asking her where she needs to be dropped off. And she is so like, I mean, her whole world's been flipped upside down because she's been divorced and she's been moved out of the house that she's been living in for quite some time. And he keeps asking her, and she doesn't know what to say. And then they end up getting in a little like fight, and he ends up getting out. And I just find it so funny that as she's driving the U-Haul away, he's like, "Yeah, thanks. Thanks for saying thanks." And so that's kind of like my first impression of him. And then the second time they meet up, he calls her bitter or something, if I remember correctly. And then and then he becomes the love interest. And I was like, what? I was like, this dude is and like, and then just to kind of like highlight one more thing, there's a scene, their love kind of grows for each other. There's just a scene where she's like, she has narration, she's just like, yeah, I think I like him and everything. And then their kind of relationship builds, and he says that that he's, I'm like simplifying it, but he says that he's a good man, that he deserves her, and that she's a good woman and she deserves him. I just find it a weird type of like, I like their relationship in theory because I think that they both are good people. I just think they have like weird dialogue and explaining their feelings for each other. I was interested to know what you guys kind of thought.
I mean, weird dialogue, I think that's a lot of this movie, though, is just like kind of like things that just like out of place melodrama, just all these kinds of things that you probably wouldn't hear any real people say. And that's kind of why I enjoy it, is because of that, is because like it's a pale imitation of what reality is, with Helen's husband Charles just being like this cartoonishly evil person, and her just being like this incredibly like good person, but who's also incredibly ignorant about her surroundings. Like, he's just like treating her like as badly as possible, and she's just not giving any pushback at all. And then it's like, and then she goes to see Medea, and it becomes just completely absurd. And you're like, okay, well, even though the past was kind of not realistic, it was still trying to imitate reality. But then you have like Medea like with a chainsaw trying to like cut everything in half, like completely.
that's
And
the funniest bit Medea's done.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's just such a weird juxtaposition, that I appreciate that I appreciate how unbalanced things are, and how especially Helen and Orlando's relationship is not a real relationship.
I agree with you, Fulton. I think the Helen and the Orlando relationship is the weakest part of the film. I don't really buy that relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't even work in like, I mean, like, I guess when you watch a bunch of these movies, you start to notice this trend, right? There's always this just super, super evil man. And then there's this good kind of working class, sometimes he's pretty rich guy who kind of comes along. And, sometimes you really buy that relationship. In the case of the first Why Did I Get Married, for example, that is a beautiful relationship that Tyler was able to get to the screen. In this case, it's really clumsy. It's really strange. I mean, just her kicking him out of the U-Haul is like, what? Why would you just kick a person out in the middle of the street who has nothing to do with your, I mean, like, no matter how wild everything has happened that's going on, it's a very strange move. And I'm not really quite sure what Perry's doing exactly there. I think he's trying to show like kind of two sides of the coin when it comes to masculinity and stuff like that. that is interesting. I did want to bring up one point that I think is very interesting that Tyler Perry does is he shows like a representation of a black upper class in America that really is not seen in mainstream films. In this film, he kind of demonizes it a little bit more than what he does in his latter films, which I tend like something like Good Deeds. I think is um, atrocious. I think it's just a really really horrible, kind of like wealth porn type of film. But here, I think it's actually pretty interesting how kind of class conscious Perry is, and how kind of money the real bad villains here are the people who have a lot of money and they are corrupted by their wealth, and how they got their wealth is through a very corrupt manner. And it's pretty interesting. And of course, this is before Tyler Perry was a billionaire, and Tyler Perry, of course, comes from like a very, troubled background where he was homeless for a while. I mean, really, really an amazing thing that he's done to build himself up. And I think that in this film, I think it's really the thing that I always find just whenever I think about this film is just how anti-cap, not necessarily capitalist, but how the villains are actually rich in this case, and they're actually, really, really, really bad people. And in many of the other films, it's like, well, they're rich, but they're not evil because they're rich. In this film, it's kind of like, well, they're maybe evil because they made a lot of money in a very shady way.
Yeah, see, including how like how Helen talks about how Charles made her put her mom in a home, even though they have this like massive mansion,
Huge house,
and it's just like she was like, oh, he made me put my mom in a rest home because it didn't fit with his life, and like he's just he just turns all these people away, pretty much turns away her family, who is a pretty like working class type family, because they're poor, you can assume.
Yeah.
But
that's
I
a very
agree.
interesting part of the film, is kind of her getting kind of assimilated or like coming back into that family. And it's handled a bit more sincere than in something like The Family That Prays, which is another Tyler Perry film where actually the woman is demonized pretty harshly in that film, one of the sisters. But it's a very interesting story. I do just, so I cannot stress enough, I do agree with you, Fulton. The Orlando bit is just always like,
It's kind of funny. Like it's
It is
it's
funny.
so
It is
weird in
funny.
like a funny
Yeah.
way.
It's
Because like while I was Chris.
I was gonna say it's also funny from like if you've never seen this film before, you just I just thought like, oh, he's not gonna be in the movie
Yeah,
after that.
and then he keeps
And
coming
he
back
is.
up.
He just comes back.
In every line, it's like, oh, did Brian send you? I thought that was kind of funny. But the thing that kind of took me over when watching this film is I think it kind of works on a certain type of film logic where you kind of suspend some of your beliefs in terms of like the film has very cinematic moments that I think if you take out of context and put in reality, it would just seem very odd, but it works really well. Like in the film, like I kind of love the scene of when Helen goes to she goes back to Orlando to tell him that she wants to marry him. And so they have this big embrace in the middle of the steel factory, and he just shouts, I just married this woman. This woman's gonna be my wife. And then everyone like starts clapping. Like, yeah, you go for it. You go.
And the guy's like, and the guy's like, hey, you can't come through here. Like, that's dangerous. And then he's like, it's okay. She's with me. Like, as if that would change the fact that like
that it's somehow less dangerous because he's.
Well, I mean, as long as you know somebody, and then to kind of build off that idea, you have the culmination of everything at the Sunday service. I'm assuming it's a Sunday service, where you have I forget Tyler Perry. Oh, Brian. Yeah, sorry. You have
Brian.
So throughout the film, Brian is having a struggle within his own family, where his wife, was it Judy?
Yeah.
Judy. Yeah, she is having trouble with addiction, and it's separated her from her family and her kids. Sorry, and she was a singer. So, and her daughter naturally wants to be a singer, and Brian wants to stop her because he doesn't want his daughter to follow in the footsteps of his mother. So it's kind of a nice little sweet moment at the end of the film where Brian's daughter gets to sing at the church, and then Judy is seemingly clear from her addiction, and she kind of joins in on this huge choir, and it's kind of crescendoing. And
that ending is wild. That
it
church ending is
crazy.
insane.
Yeah, but it's such a pretty, like, that's kind of what I'm going back to, is like it's such a perfect kind of like cinematic moment where all the pieces kind of fit back together.
They all come alive.
Yeah, and
Like
it almost made me tear up a little bit. I did find it to be very sweet.
I found it moving as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people sometimes forget that Tyler Perry really is a Christian filmmaker. Like he really does. Faith is what drives him, and faith is something that's so important to him and his
yeah, Christianity is very important.
And it's something that I think is actually represented in a very wholesome way in these films. There are some critics, and I have read them, and I actually tend to agree that there are sometimes he presents a somewhat misogynist, or at least not always inclusive Christianity in certain parts of his films. But in many cases, I do find the presentation coming from a place of genuine love or genuine respect for their faith. He really, really believes that these characters, that this is what is going to make everything better, is God and each other. And it's I always find it very moving, even in the films that I think are terrible, that are sometimes in these series. And if God is invoked, I'm always.
And I like how he channels that with his Madea character. The
hand of justice.
Yes, someone who is like portrayed as like this, very imperfect woman that's very wise, but also very funny when it comes to like kind of setting the record straight and stuff, and knowing what's right, even though that she has her own flaws. Like there's always there's like a reoccurring gag in the Madea films where it's like they're always like, Madea, when are you gonna go to church? And she's always like, oh, I don't want to go to church, like I'm afraid of going to church. But she still has that wisdom, and I think that it kind of ties things up nicely.
Yeah, I agree.
Like later, and
she's obviously a woman who's like, her views with God and strayed from the path and all of this. It's often very funny to hear some of her stories. But when you listen to her character, like there is something about Christianity, about religion, that does kind of drive her in a very unique way. I don't think we often think of Madea as a very Christian character, but there is certainly something there. You're totally right that there is a certain part of religion that really comes out in Madea that's super, super interesting.
I can't stress this enough. There's nothing as satisfying as seeing Madea correct the wrongs of everybody in these films. Like it's just like it's so satisfying. Like it's amazing. I think there is something else I wanted to briefly talk about, but I'm struggling to remember what it was.
Well, I do think that we should bring up the two Betty Davis allusions in the film and how insane it is, because so first of all, at the beginning, when Madea and Helen go to Charles's house and are looking through the closet, Madea goes, what does she say? She says, like, where are the wire hangers? And she emphasizes the wire hanger, and feels very direct. Feels like a direct reference to Joan Crawford, or no, not her. Faye Dunaway's performance as Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest, the film, where she goes, "No wire hangers ever," and so I thought that's a pretty interesting reference. And then on top of that, the final, like one of the final scenes in the final act of the film seems exactly like whatever happened to Baby Jane, the Joan Crawford and Betty Davis film.
Yeah. Exactly. It's almost like a remake at that point.
Yeah. For that terrifying. Small moment.
Yeah. I mean, like I remember when I was watching it for the first time, I was like, this is insane that this movie gets to this place.
I did not anticipate it at all.
It's so unexpected, but it works. and it works because it's working in such a unique genre. It's a genre piece. It's leaning into that melodrama, leaning into the just most absurd, wild possibility here. I absolutely love that bit. That's one of my favorite parts of the film when it just go. I don't know if we should spoil it, but it just goes absolutely.
I mean, yeah, we can probably get into spoilers.
Because I do love the callback, and I forget Uncle Joe. Was it Uncle Joe?
Yeah, Uncle Joe.
I do love the callback to there's like a line where he's like, don't go all misery on her or something like, or on him or something like that. I was a little too late for that one, bud, but you know.
Yeah, the fart joke.
I gotta write that down for when I will have something I want to ask you guys when we get to Medea's Big Happily Family. Sorry, I kept tripping over my words.
So basically what happens is Charles, who's a attorney, he's in the courtroom, and my mouth was agape when that happened, when like when
insane set piece.
When they're like, okay, you're going to be sentenced, the jury finds you guilty, and the guy that they're handcuffing him, and while they're handcuffing him, he grabs the gun of the police officer and fires 4 shots into Charles, and then he's in the hospital, and I'm just like, this is insane. And so then he goes to the hospital. Helen ends up taking care of him, even though they're already divorced. They're already going to be divorced. Like, they already went to court and did that, but she's still technically his wife. And so then she nurses him back to health. And even when he's paralyzed and gets back out of the hospital to his house, he's still incredibly just abrasive and rude and just horrible to her. And so then she starts torturing him, whatever happened to Baby Jane style. And but it kind of comes back around to being it comes back around to having kind of a moral message about, you have to learn how to forgive people, even the most horrible people, because it's the Christian thing to do and stuff. And it's
I think there's a line where it's like, you have to do it to heal that part of yourself that's been hurt by the other person. And I think that's an interesting message.
That's something that ties into the next one we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
That is it's a big thing. Like, you have to forgive them, or else they'll never leave you. You'll never be able to, get over this. And it's how you heal, is forgiveness, which is a very Christian, message. It's an extremely Christian message, which is something you don't really see in a lot of Hollywood films.
Yeah. And to think of, it really is amazing, like what Perry's managed to do as far as like creating. Atlanta's really continued to grow, but he's been making his films out of Atlanta since the beginning. And just how I also have a bit of affinity for his films, because I lived in Atlanta for a little bit and still go to Atlanta frequently and live very close to it. So it's just very nice to see films that are set so close by.
And they're not, and they get a lot of, they have a pretty bad reputation among film scholars, among a lot of film people. But you actually watch them, and they're actually a lot better. There's a lot more interesting things happening in these films than maybe some people give them credit for. And I think Tyler Perry, for all his flaws, does do some things that are really, really, really interesting. I think this is a great example. One more thing about Madea, because we did mention it earlier, there's a scene where she goes to the house with Helen to kind of get her stuff and get it right. And there's an incredible line where, who is the guy's name? Is it Chris? Charles,
yeah.
Where Charles's new lover is there, and Madea is taking all of these clothes out of this closet, and she just goes like, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm gonna call the police." And Madea delivers maybe the funniest line I've heard this century. She says, "Good, they're gonna be here in 10 minutes. That's gonna give me 9 minutes to beat your ass." And it is so funny. It is
Yeah.
so funny, and it's really. I mean, like when I first saw that, I was laughing so hard, and it's amazing that Perry's able to find comedy in something that's just so dark and so.
Mhm.
upsetting.
It is surprising too how Medea really isn't in this film a lot. Like,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Feels like
she's
30% of the movie is kind of given to her.
and
Yeah.
just how off of that it really kind of launched all the other films to have a lot more Medea in them. Even to even Perry's probably Perry's like chagrin, like, you know, I don't think
Oh, I think we're
Oh.
losing Chris a little bit.
like he doesn't like he I think he got
Oh.
very tired of the character.
Sorry, it cut in and out real quick for you.
Oh, I was just saying to Perry's own chagrin, you know, Medea became like kind of the central character and kind of Perry's identity in a lot of ways as a filmmaker. And I know he doesn't really like the character, and but like the future films just include Medea a whole lot. Like we'll talk about Big Happy Family in a little bit, but that has so much more Medea in it compared to this,
sure.
which is very
Well, a lot of those early ones really don't. I mean, something like I Can Do Bad All by Myself, you're talking maybe 10 minutes of Medea screen time. Meet the Browns is going to have like 5 minutes of Medea, give or take. I mean, the early Tyler Perry films, Medea doesn't play as much of a role as maybe you think they do. And they tend to be a little bit better. Not necessarily, I think Medea is very funny. I think she does do some things that's really interesting. I think, for example, Medea Goes to Jail. I think Medea is just great in that. I think that's one of my favorite of the films. I think it's a visually stunning film. I think it's an unexpected film, and I think Medea is used really, really effectively. And in these early films, she tends to be pretty funny, and she tends to kind of lighten up some of the really dark and dour themes that the films are usually dealing with, as unrealistic as some of them may be. But I definitely kind of agree with you, Chris. It is interesting how, like, as these as his career keeps building, you know, the Medea screen time builds more and more to a point where when you reach the Boo films, they're entirely Medea. They're only Medea. And I actually like those films a bit more than most people, but they are entirely Medea and Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, who I think is actually really not that funny in this film. I think he's a little funnier in the next film we're going to talk about, but I think he's just, you know.
I agree. I don't really think Uncle Joe
This is the
other than the fart joke, but
oh my gosh, this is that bit where they get that who is that woman who they give marijuana to at the party, and like
the rabbit.
I mean, it's an incredibly I mean, like there's just it's so strange how that works. This Uncle Joe persona, I really don't care for too much in this film, certainly compared to Medea.
I do like the idea that like Perry has to play himself, plays 3 different characters in these movies, and or well, no, in Big Happy Family, it's only 2, but in this one and in Medea Goes to Jail, it's 3 different characters. And I don't know, it's just really funny when Tyler Perry's talking to Tyler Perry, like in
I was just about to say the same thing.
Like in Medea's Big Happy Family, Uncle Joe says to Medea, and I quote, that that Medea is the next Lenny Bruce, and it's just really funny that Uncle Joe is complimenting Medea, and it's the same. It's somebody giving a compliment to themselves.
Yeah.
Listen, man, them riffing with each other is like one of the highlights. I mean, to me, it's one of the highlights of Medea's Big Happy Family, which I really did quite enjoy.
Are we dead? Any final notes on Diary of a Mad Black Woman before we switch gears to Medea's Big Happy Family?
No, I think it's a good first entry. I think it's funny. I think it does some really great melodrama. It's an interesting genre piece. It has some moments that don't work, has some jokes that don't land, but especially after watching all of these films, you really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's got a lot of the Perry mainstays, you know, melodrama, a subplot about a really tragic subplot about something like drug addiction, Christian sermonizing, and just weird tonal strangeness out of a Bollywood film almost. And that's really all. And if that's what you want in a movie, then you'll love this.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say it's a recommend for me. I'd say check it out.
So yeah, Medea's Big Happy Family, which is from 2011, kind of shows how these films developed over time, and I'm pretty sure that Perry was making one a year, like until 2019 when
Yeah,
he
at
finally.
least one a year. I mean, there are
Mm.
sometimes he would make even more than that, plus his television shows. I mean, this is one of the
Yeah.
most prolific guys ever.
And so this film is about Medea's niece, Shirley, who is like there's just a lot of gut punches at the beginning of this movie as far as drama is concerned, because she's diagnosed with terminal cancer. But on top of that, you have also tonal strangeness at the beginning, even despite that, because Aunt B, who's
Yeah,
with
Aunt Bam, yeah.
or Aunt Bam, sorry. Aunt Bam, when she's with Shirley, she's just talking about how horny she is for the doctor, and also her character is just like obsessed with like smoking weed. Like she's always looking to like smoke weed and buy weed off of people, which is I think is really funny. Is so out of place. But it's about her trying to get her family together because they're just fighting with each other constantly about all these types of things, and she wants them to be together and kind of share this tragic news, and try to, on top of that, try to make sure that everybody, like, there's just so much bad blood between her children and stuff, and even their spouses. So, and it's a sweet movie. I thought it was really, really sweet. Like, I think it has a lot of Perry's strengths in it, as far as like, I really did feel a lot for this family, and like it was nice that like how it kind of used the same Christian like ethics as far as like in a family, to talk about the family and the importance of that. So
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's really funny. Like, it's actually like
Yeah.
very, very funny. And it's also, when it needs to be serious, it's very serious, and it's serious in a very effective way. I
Mhm.
totally agree with you with the Christian point. I think this is like I call my parents. I tell them like this is the most faith affirming American film I have seen in I don't know, in a long, long time. You compare this to something like the Kendrick brothers, who work out of Georgia as well. Films fall way below the line in terms of trying to really amp up the faith. This film, I think, really, really shows how important and effective faith can be to certain people to living a happy life. I think it's just a really, really special movie for that. You mentioned Aunt Bam earlier. I think Aunt Bam is really, really funny in this.
yeah.
Aunt Bam, I believe, is first introduced in Family Reunion, Medea's Family Reunion, where she is much more mellow, very calm, doesn't really tell any jokes. And then over the course of the series, she becomes one of the main players and has this really interesting trait of just smoking weed like all the time. It's very, very comical. And I think her relationship to Shirley is really interesting. I think they have a very sweet and loving relationship. And I was really, really moved towards the end of the film when you get to see Aunt Bam in the church. It literally brought me to tears. Like, it literally was, I was like, I have to, I cannot hold this in me any longer. This is truly, truly amazing. I never thought Tyler Perry would make me cry, but he does.
Yeah.
He does a really great job here. One thing I wanted to bring up: how old is Madea supposed to be?
Yeah, that was what I was wondering.
And this is not the first time I've asked this question. She's like a great grandmother in some cases. Sometimes she's like a mother, but her like daughter is like, because okay,
Doesn't
so
look that much younger than her. Like, it's really weird because Medea's
Yeah.
daughter plays
So
like a subplot in this movie.
right. Right, and she's the Browns. I think I said the Bryans earlier. Excuse me, but yeah, she's what is her name? Oh, Cora. She's Cora Brown.
Oh, yeah,
who's,
that's right.
Technically Medea's daughter. And then she's with the doctor with her father, and they're clearly the same age as Tyler Perry and Medea. Like it makes so. It's just like what.
And how
They
how
try
Ma-
to. Mhm.
Oh, and how Cora is supposed to be like in her like late 50s, and I don't know. I'm just confused if like Medea is like this woman in her 80s, or if she's like
I
it's
don't
very
know. I think Medea can just be any age she wants to be. It's
Mhm.
really, really wild because you're also talking about like Shirley, who is also pretty old. Like she has a granddaughter. She has what, 3 children, 4 children? I mean, 4 children, 3 children. Well, 3 children.
Yeah.
Like it's like this is there's a lot of it's
well.
really
I
confusing to me.
Then-
according to the Tyler Perry wiki, she
Mm.
does not have an age.
Kind of touching on Mr. Brown, they dye his facial hair to make him look way older, but I have a hard time buying that he's much older than like 45 or something like that.
Yeah, he's
Which, not to knock the actor, I don't know his actual age. I just mean that like,
that's David Mann.
Yeah, no.
He's a comedian who's very funny.
Mhm.
He got to be in this, but yeah, it's just really, really interesting just how Medea's age is just constantly changing. Just so interesting. I think actually the funniest part in this movie is when Uncle Joe is in the living room. I don't know if y'all remember that, and he's just going. It's such a long joke too.
Yeah, it's very
The and it's so funny. I mean, like I usually think Uncle Joe's like kind of cringe, but in this case, it is so funny. I mean, it's like it's a testament to like Tyler Perry can really do comedy if he needs to do comedy.
Well, I think Uncle Joe actually has one of other than that one, he also has he has one of, I'd say maybe a top 3 favorite line in this film at the end when it shows because Cora doesn't believe that, or Cora finds out that Mr. Brown isn't her father, but like Medea is insistent that that's the case. And so then they go on Maury and find out, and then it turns out that sure enough he isn't the father, and Medea is freaking out. And then it cuts to Uncle Joe watching the TV, and he goes, "Call 1-800 choke that hoe," and then it's just freeze frame, and then it just rolls to the credits, and it's just such a weird ending.
Have you started a list on Letterboxd of films that feature Maury like actually being like in the film?
No.
Has anyone done that? Because I mean, Austin Powers, this one, I'm sure like other films have done it. Not that it's an integral part of the movie, but
It is,
Pretty
yes.
funny.
Yeah.
And you have Teyana Taylor's character goes on Maury too, which is really funny. She's committed to this piece.
She's
Like,
very-
I mean, wow! I remember when I was like, "What? This is what you're doing with this character?" It's a really inspired comedic performance. I think it's pretty funny. I really do. I think she does a really the whole drive-through bit with Madea is brilliant. Like it is.
Oh, yeah.
It is laugh out loud funny. I've seen this film like 3 times, and each time I see it, it's just so funny. That bit is just great. It's exactly what you want in a Madea movie. It's so good. But I also when I'm so happy we're talking about this because I do think this is probably my favorite of Tyler Perry's movies. It's up there.
Your favorite Tyler Perry
ever.
movie?
It's either this one or The Family That Prays. I go back and forth, but I think that this movie is so good at kind of capturing that family dynamic, the family drama in a way that's not as over the top as I think Tyler's other films are. And really it's a testament to the actors. The actors are really, really, really good.
Yeah,
Loretta Devine is amazing.
Lil Bow
Amazing.
Wow.
Oh
Shout
my
out
god.
Yeah. I'm
That
glad that I've been watching more movies with him recently. Coming off of Tokyo Drift and going into this one, I can't complain, you know.
Yeah.
But to
Oh.
kind of touch on what you were talking about, Cody, it's kind of crazy that this film, when you kind of look at it, it has so much going on in it, but I feel like everything feels very equaled and it gets the shine on it that it kind of deserves and that is warranted from all these like storylines, because there's a lot. I mean, like the whole family just it really goes into everything, and it doesn't overstay its welcome either, which
It
is,
And
does.
you know,
the plot twist at the end about who Byron's Byron's mother is just like,
Mm.
damn, like that's
It's
just
yeah. And I would say I've heard some people complain about this. I do think that final scene, there's like a twist after the twist.
mhm.
It feels like slightly like, okay, wait. You
Mhm.
gotta give us a little more than this, Tyler. Like, what does that make, But it's still very effective. I think the best thing Tyler's ever done, and I think it's really Loretta Devine who's really to credit here. And on the scene in the hospital where she has all of her kids around her and they start crying. I really like I think it's a genuinely like great scene. Like I don't even think it's like a good scene or the scene works. I think it's like one of those scenes where like I'm gonna show some great scenes today. This is a great cinematic moment.
Mhm.
Which is really, I think, unexpected. Something I didn't think would happen in a Tyler Perry movie from his reputation, but it really is amazing. There's this one line that she says when her two of her children, start to cry, where she says, "Don't cry for me, cry for somebody who doesn't know Jesus." And like in that just one little line, your heart breaks, but at the same time, you're just realizing how this woman, this person has been able to stay alive and fight cancer for so long because of how much trust she has in her faith. And that's something you just like, so much of Christian cinema has no idea what to do with God, how to show faith in a way that people like myself, who is a non-believer, can actually understand. And that Tyler Perry is able to do that and make me cry and make me like be like, wow, maybe religion is actually something that can be used for good is
Mhm.
really, really amazing. And I think he
Mhm.
doesn't get the credit for that in the Christian community, certainly not in the white Christian community at all,
Mhm.
that he totally deserves. And I think that it's really, really a moving piece of cinema. I recommend it to everybody, especially my religious friends. I
And
really,
yeah,
really
the way that Shirley is just able to, she's hit with the realization that she's terminally ill, but she is okay with it and she's at peace with it because she knows that, she knows that God has a plan and things will work out, and that, things are going to be all right, and she'll be fine either way. Is just it's the way that Perry looks at faith in this is it's done in such a way that it kind of, yeah, like intertwines all these other aspects of it, and it's not just like this one thing that's just stated by one person but not really shown, because the family aspect is really important to why this works so well. And
yeah.
not a lot of, I mean, I don't really know a whole lot of Christian filmmakers, in all honesty. We could
I
have
know
a
too
whole
many.
yeah.
Even some personally, it's no. They're really tough. They're struggling these days.
Well, I feel like
um,
it kind of shows it in a Tyler Perry kind of shows it in a different light. And again, I'm coming from someone who I don't know a lot about the Christian filmmakers or anything, but you do see a lot of people in this film kind of struggle with how they feel and their own emotions on God and everything. I think that's a really interesting kind of aspect to take, because I'm trying to think of the last. I don't even know when the last time I saw a Christian based movie. I think it was it's like, do you believe in God? There was, I don't
Oh
know.
yeah,
I'm
do you believe?
do you
yeah.
believe?
Is that
Yeah.
the film that I think it's the Pureflix film that's like
Mhm.
it's like a Robert Altman movie, and then like all there's like a crazy like someone's having a baby in a car on a bridge while is that
Yeah,
the
that's Do You Believe?
That's Do You
That has
Believe?
like the cast of like a bunch of
It's
people
in
in
yeah,
it.
and
Yeah.
it's like all the
Yeah,
like there's even like I think
yeah,
there's an Oscar winner in there too. It's like
yeah.
it's insane.
It's crazy. Oh wait, no, it was this movie about this kid that had a near. He was really young. This might be the same movie. I
Heaven
just
is
don't
for
remember.
Real
Heaven is for real.
with
That
Greg
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kinnear.
oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
hated
yeah,
that
yeah.
film. I
That
thought
was
it
the last movie I saw, but I don't remember anybody like questioning their faith in that film. But I can't speak on it like with 100% like
Yeah, no, I think
sure,
you're
you
right.
know.
And what's wild about that film and so many of these other films is they don't really show like there's nothing for non-believers, right? There's
Mhm.
nothing for they're either preaching to the choir, and if you're not a Christian, you're an atheist who's demonized, something like God's not dead, who they literally kill the atheist in that movie, which is
And
insane.
as well as the treatment of Muslims in that movie
Oh,
is
it's horrific,
God.
horrific. And this is
abhorrent.
this is a
Yeah.
film that feels far more inclusive. It also doesn't really preach to you in a way that those films do.
Mhm.
God is certainly present, and Jesus is certainly present. We don't hear a sermon really. We have that amazing church sequence, which is a celebration of life. It's a film that really just advocates for people to live and love each other. And
Mhm.
that's what religion, I think, should be. And I think that's what Tyler Perry might think religion should be. And I find it incredibly moving. I also think it's so great that you can have a film that is this faith affirming and still have jokes about hoes and all of this other stuff, because obviously these other like quote family friendly films present a world that is so sanitized it's
Mhm.
impossible to connect with. That's the problem with pure flicks, and or if they present something else, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, sanitized as in pure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, pure.
To kind of go back to what you were saying about the church sequences, I do really, really admire how they do feel like celebrations. And going back to what you were saying, it doesn't feel like a ham-fisted thing to the audience to be like, well, this is how you should be living your life. It doesn't feel like it's really trying to grab a hold of you. It just, they genuinely do feel like celebrations. And in the first one, it's a celebration about, coming to terms with, I guess, kind of the cards that you've been dealt, if you kind of want to look at it that way. And then in this one, it's a celebration about someone that's passed away, but it doesn't, it's melancholy, but it feels more happy and feels more affirming, which I find very interesting. So yeah, I think I was going to say the same thing. A celebration is the perfect way to kind of, I think that's how from these two films that I've seen, I think it's a perfect way to kind of describe his endings. It does feel very happy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I cannot wait for the next Tyler Perry movie. I keep checking my phone every day, like what's in development.
Well, did you watch the one that he put out on Netflix last year?
The Fall from Grace? That's one of the ones I have not seen. I have heard it
Yeah.
is amazing for the like true Tyler heads. The critics hated it, but I think I would really like it. It is. I heard he shot it in 5 days, which is insane.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
like what Clint Eastwood can't even do that.
He signed or he just did a big deal with like Atlanta, right, for his production company. It's going to be like the biggest I don't even know what you would call it, but
he's got his own independent studio down Tyler Perry Studios. It's the biggest studio, I believe, in the country. It's huge.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it's amazing. Like it employs just thousands and thousands of people, and it's going to stay there forever. And they've shot just countless films on there already. They shot part of Black Panther was shot on there back in 2017 or 2018. And I think Black Panther 2 was also shot some there too. And there's been some other major films that have been put out there.
That's
also,
awesome.
He's the first independent man to do that in a while. And also he's a black man. First black man to do that is an amazing feat. And I think yes, obviously he got the Oscar this year, the Governor's Award, and there are certain people in the industry who have really, acknowledged this, but there's still a bit of a hesitation to really go all in. And there are some problematic things with Tyler Perry. He's not very friendly to unions. Not always great. Has had some troubling statements. Maybe not troubling, but does not exactly agree with everyone politically. But I think he is a very talented man, and I think he does deserve a lot of attention. There are a number of people who do attack him because I think they do think his films do present a certain type of stereotype that is kind of exploitative in
I
a
mean,
way.
Spike Lee is one of them.
Yeah,
Sure.
but they have since made up. And I think part of the reason why that happens, and it's something that really is, I think a lot of people don't, at least the way that I view Tyler Perry is I really do view him as a genre filmmaker, and this is something that, like, Jordan Peele, who's a horror filmmaker, right, another black filmmaker, is not going to be getting attacked with presenting any sort of, uh, stereotypes or what have you. But the melodrama mixed with the comedy is going to kind of throw people off. And because it's kind of genre bending, I don't think people view him as a genre filmmaker. And
I agree.
Some of these other Hollywood auteurs, even someone like M. Night Shyamalan or someone like, fill in the blank, even I guess Tarantino is kind of his own genre, but it's just, like these guys don't really get the same type of criticism. And like some of the criticism you read from Tyler Perry, from especially people of color, it is valid. It's just an experience that, like, the three of us can't really speak to. We don't live it.
Yeah.
But it is, I do understand that, but I do think it is wrong to completely write Tyler Perry off. And I definitely think when you actually watch his films, there are redeeming elements in quite a number of them. There are some films like his adaptation of For Colored Girls and Temptation are atrocious. They're terrible. I would even say they're conservative and they're misogynist, and they're actively like despicable films that make me want to slap Tyler Perry in the face, right? But then you watch something like this and you're like, I don't see that same person.
Is he do you think that he's our generation's Douglas Sirk?
I have said that in the past. Yeah. Certainly does not come from as much of a troubling past as Douglas Sirk. That's for certain.
Oh yeah,
he was not making films with the Nazis, but he is there is certainly a level of him. I mean, honestly, that's a great comparison, I think, because they both work in a very specific genre, the melodrama genre, and they do things to it that I think are really, really interesting. Love the colors in all of their films, even though I think some of Tyler Perry's films look a little tough.
Like there's definitely a lot of parts of Madea Goes to Jail that I'm like, could you
See,
guys have done that again?
See, that's the one that I always cite as being like visually like, what in the hell? This is awesome.
I need to see that one again.
That the shots in the rain, Chris, it looks like a Wong Kar-wai movie. I'm like, what is happening?
I'll give you that. The Wong Kar-wai comparison.
Someone behind the camera was like, I just watched this movie, In the Mood for Love. What if we did this scene like that? And it's interesting. I also think Tyler Perry's a decent actor. I think he gets he gets written off as a good. He's great in that new film, Those Who Wish to Be Dead, HBO Max. He has one scene, but he's fantastic in it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I saw him in the trailer.
And of course, Gone Girl.
Oh
yeah, and he was in Vice.
He's good.
I forgot about him.
He's really good in Vice. He's like really funny.
Wow. I totally forgot he was in
he's
that.
He's in the new Adam McKay film too, I think, coming out on Netflix this year.
Oh, the Geo, it's like was it the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and
Jennifer Lawrence?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
That one seems interesting. I'm a little like skeptical about it for some reason.
I am too. I saw some I guess they had some footage in that Netflix trailer or whatever. It looks interesting. I don't know how it's gonna go.
I don't think we talked about this on the news, but they were doing a stunt for it in New York where there was an explosion and apparently like glass hit Jennifer Lawrence like in the eye.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so they had to like she's I believe I remember reading that she's all fine, but I think it was like a tiny piece, which might even be that's really bad because it is in your eye.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. So I hope the set is doing okay, but I know that film has like it's got a big cast in it. But it seems like a very just going off of like Leo's politics, it's it seems to be kind of in line with what he thinks. So I mean I am interested to see it.
I'll certainly see it.
So what he thinks about what he thinks about screwing his friends.
Yeah.
No,
I thought you were
like
gonna
in
say
Don's Plum.
Nice,
thought you
nice reference to a previous episode.
Yeah, it's part of the cinematic
Yeah.
universe of Podcast 43.
Podcast 43. Yeah, I love it.
So I guess on that note, does anybody else want to say anything about Medea's big happy family, or just anything about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Perry, before we transition to news?
I recommend this one as well. I think I do enjoy this one more, but I think it is kind of I think people should still see Diary because it's the beginning as well. I always like love the lineage of ideas that get carried over between stuff. So if you're someone like me that wants to see that, definitely
Yeah.
check out,
I would say this one's surprisingly, I think this one's a lot, even though it's dealing with cancer, I think this one's a lot lighter of a time. And so I think it's situational which one you should watch first. But I think I maybe like Diary of a Mad Black Woman a little bit better because of kind of that whatever happened to Baby Jane riff, and then just like just how insane the ending is too. But this one's very nice too. I'd recommend them both.
This one, I also, of course, as you all heard, I love this one. This I would totally recommend it. Would say this is a good one to show the family. This is a good one to show people if they have not familiar with Tyler Perry, maybe more so than Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Although I love both of the films.
All right.
All right.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, I guess we are ready to take an ad break. So we will be right back with the news. Okay, and we are back. So I'm just writing down that really quick. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into the trailers really quick. We don't have as much news this week, but there's a lot of interesting things going on. So there's Dear Evan Hansen, which will be out on September 24th, which is an adaptation of the stage play, and I believe it has most of the main cast from the stage play. Then we have if anyone was itching for a new Liam Neeson movie, he's got a new one called The Ice Road, which will be out on Netflix on June 25th, which has him as an ice road trucker fighting against the winter. That's from writer-director Jonathan Hinsly. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. I'm sorry if I didn't. Lastly, we have Respect, which is an Aretha Franklin biopic with Jennifer Hudson starring as Aretha Franklin. That'll be out August 13th. So heading into the news, well, actually, no, I'll get to it. We have Angelina Robinson, who did previously Professor Marston in The Wonder Woman. She's working on a remake of The Hunger, which was a Tony Scott film. Currently, Jessica Sharzer is writing the script, as well as Greg Bertolanti, who's famous for a lot of his CW shows. He is producing. We've had a ton of casting news come out about Knives Out too, and so we have some more news. So Leslie Odom Jr. has joined the cast, as well as Kate Hudson. So he's quite building up a cool cast for that one. Or Ryan Johnson is, sorry. This one kind of came out of nowhere, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it with you guys for a second because I just find it really interesting. So Netflix has announced the Fear Street trilogy, which is based on the R.L. Stine books. So all 3 films of the trilogy will be released this year, this summer actually, on Netflix. The first movie comes out July 2nd, the second movie July 9th, and the third on July 16th. These are touted as rated R horror films. So the first film will be set in 1994, the second film 1997, and the third film in 1666. I cannot think of, when I hear movies coming out so closely together, I find it really interesting because the last time I can think of this happening is kind of The Matrix with Matrix Reloaded, and I'm forgetting the last Matrix movie. But I just kind of wanted to pick your guys' brains on the fact that a whole trilogy is coming out this summer on Netflix.
of the R.L. Stein thing. Yeah, it's I'm interested. I want to see these R-rated R.L. Stein adaptations, especially someone who read Goosebumps a lot in elementary school, because I thought it made me look mature and edgy. Yeah.
I had the Karma Sutra, so I figured I was going somewhere with that.
Oh,
yeah. Oh. Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you?
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It reminds me of how Amazon did Small Axe last year, that Steve McQueen.
Oh yeah,
anthology.
damn it! I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, which of course that was pandemic, so
Mm.
we're still in it, I guess, but everyone's vaccinated. I know we all are, but people are getting vaccinated. So it's a little different, but yeah, I'm certainly interested. I also, like Chris, read a lot of Goosebumps as a kid. Certainly interested. I like the Goosebumps films quite a bit, the ones that have been coming out over the past few years. So I'm curious. An R-rated R.L. Stein, I'm here for it. So
Mhm.
if they're good, it's going to be great. They're a week apart, so I don't have to wait years to see it. Like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine being alive. I mean, we were alive, but like being adult in the Lord of the Rings, like having to wait a whole year to see the next
I
one
can't even
would
imagine.
have
Yeah.
killed me. I would have been like, "What? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
There hasn't really been anything like that in our. I mean, I guess there's been like Harry Potter's.
Well, for me and Fulton,
Mhm.
the Fast and Furious movies.
The Fast and
but-
Yeah.
Furious. Yeah, new one's coming out.
So, like-
I have never seen a Fast and Furious movie.
Oh my gosh, Cody.
Cody.
I know.
Cody,
I
I'm
know.
about
I've
to-
seen thousands of movies and I've never seen one of them.
Cody, I hope my words can inspire you when I get to what I've been watching over this past week. Because
Okay.
I have such a, I'm so excited to talk about that. I forgot to say, with this trilogy, it's all set within the same town, just at 3 different time periods. So I find that to be kind of interesting too, as well.
Who do they all have the same director, or are they directed by
Ye-
different people? Or?
Yes, it's done by the same. Here, let me, because I want to say, I think it's a duo. All 3 films are directed by Lai Janak, if I'm saying that correctly. I'm
What?
not sure specifically what they've worked on before, but it seems that they were related in other horror stuff, like the new Craft movie. Are they a part of that? I'd have to look it up just to see. Okay, so they did the 2014 movie Honeymoon, and they also worked on a few episodes of Scream, the TV series, I think that MTV did. And they also worked on Outcast, which was a Robert Kirkman adaptation, I believe. And then Panic, which I don't know what Panic is. Oh, it's the new Amazon. It's a new Amazon thriller. That
Yeah.
show actually does look kind of interesting too, but I don't know too much about that. I also find it interesting that it's moving back in time. You would think it would move 1660 to the 90s.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I did a quick IMDb look. She seems fascinating, really
Mhm.
interesting. Also, she's got some thanks credits on some Alex Ross Perry films too, which is exciting. So I'll definitely be checking out Honeymoon before those films drop. That's
I'll have to do
I
the
had not heard
same.
about this. This is news to me. So
I've seen Honeymoon. I watched that.
How is it? Is it good?
I remember it being all right. It was kind of a decent kind of thriller. Just kind of like weird stuff happening. If you're into that,
that's so vague.
I mean, like, I don't want to.
You could say that about a Madea film.
It's true.
Weird stuff.
But yeah, I think I want to know. I remember the camera being quite the cinematography being quite I don't know, kind of that verite style, like realistic look to it. So I wonder if it's going to carry over to this Fear Street trilogy as
They
well.
released a teaser with Maya Hawke in it, so it seems like she's kind of having a running collaboration with Netflix, which is good as well.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll? I wonder if they'll make one of the films black and white. That could be sick.
Yeah.
That I think because I was reading the Empire write-up that they did on it, and I believe that each film will be grounded in a certain horror aesthetic. So I think that 1666, if it, because the poster looks like it's black and white. If it was going to be any of them, it would probably
It would be
that
the
one.
1666.
Yeah. But that's
Oh my
interesting,
gosh.
you know, when you think about the decades of horror that we've had. If one movie can kind of encapsulate the 90s, the other the 70s and the early 80s, if they want to do that, and then kind of like German expressionists, that'd be really cool.
That would be epic.
I don't know
would
if that's what they have planned, but you know,
Yeah,
I got to give them props for the
Yeah,
whole trilogy.
I'll be following this wholeheartedly. That's exciting.
Nick Santora is working on a spy-based show around a father and a daughter group of spies. So it's about them working together. So it's got Arnold in it, everyone's favorite Predator fighter. And he'll be playing the father with Monica Barbero playing the daughter. That show has currently been picked up by Netflix. So hopefully we'll be hearing more news about that soon. And I hope I pronounce these names right. I'm sorry if I mess them up in advance. Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fala. They were famous. They're a directing duo who previously did Bad Boys for Life. They are set.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have a saying that you know, filmmakers can grow, so let's hope that they have learned from their experience on that movie. Which watch Bad Boys 2 if you haven't. Just throwing that out there. It's a great movie. They're working with DC to direct the Batgirl film. And Christina Hodson is said to have worked on the script. Just interesting thing to look at. This film was previously Joss Whedon's project, but he, you know, I think a few things kind of came into play there with that. You know, his kind of a lot of his recent decisions and stuff like that have kind of you know, all the things that have come out, allegations against him. And also he said that he didn't know how he wanted to do the project. But further speaking of DC, Bruce Timm, who created Batman, the animated series, and is kind of the head figure behind a lot of not the Batman, but the DC animated universe back in the 90s, is making a new Batman animated show for HBO Max called Caped Crusader. J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves are also set to be working on the show as well. So that's kind of interesting. Universal is working on a Cher biopic with Eric Roth writing. There's currently no director signed on at the moment, but Judy Kramer and Gary Goetzman are producing. Disney has announced Hocus Pocus 2 for a Disney Plus 2022 release. That will also have the original cast back. Amazon has picked up Everybody's Talking About Jamie, which is another play that has now been adapted for the screens. That'll be out on September 17th. It is a play about a teenage drag queen. Going back to HBO Max, they're adding a tiered subscription service, much like Hulu. So I think it's like $5 a month, and you just have to watch like ads or something like that. There's a new film called Paradise City that will have Bruce Willis and John Travolta going head to head as like mercenaries, which that just sounded kind of fun. And I'm sure we're gonna probably no, I'll use this as I'll get to that. Sorry. There's a Highlander reboot in the works from Chad Stahelski, who is the man behind the John Wick films, and currently Henry Cavill is set to kind of be the star of that. And lastly, I'm going to use this one as kind of a segue because I believe we kind of all watched this film. Netflix greenlit sorry, a prequel film to The Army of the Dead called Army of Thieves. They also greenlit an anime series called Army of the Dead Las Vegas. And Zack Snyder has come out to said that if there is an appetite for a sequel, they will be working on it. So I just kind of wanted to use that as a segue into what we've been watching over the past week. Because Cody, you're a big Zack Snyder fan, right?
I am, yeah.
Hmm.
Recently kind of embarked on the Zack Snyder journey and have become one of the fans.
Mhm.
And I was impressed with Army of the Dead. I saw it in theaters. I got a chance to see it in theaters. Was really, really loved it. I thought it was just a blast from start to finish.
Yeah,
I'm
Interested to hear that they're doing. Go
So
ahead.
just to kind of give you like context, Deborah Snyder, which is Zack Snyder's wife, when they approached Netflix about it, she came out and said that if Netflix would have never have kind of like agreed to it, Army of Dead probably wouldn't be here. But when they signed on to do Army of the Dead, Netflix immediately proposed this to kind of be a franchise. So Netflix is banking on it really hard. And so I also forgot to mention that with the anime series, Zack Snyder is directing, I believe, 2 episodes from it. So that's kind of
wow.
also interesting to see him kind of dive into a different
animated stuff.
Yeah. But they are like really with Army of Thieves, which is the prequel, apparently it's already been shot. It was shot during the pandemic. So
It's already been shot. That's amazing.
yeah, and it was directed by one of the stars of Army of the Dead, but I do not remember who it was. But I just find it to be like, Netflix kind of has a running thing where they just like throw money at like anything that kind of comes to them, or that's kind of like what it seems like. But I just find it to be very interesting that Zack Snyder might have a new home. It kind of feels, because Warner Brothers is kind of
he's pretty much bridge. He's worked with Warner Brothers almost exclusively, save for Dawn of the Dead, I believe. Everything else was a Warner Brothers production. So for him to shift to Netflix after, Warner Brothers, I don't know. I don't think they're on bad terms or anything, but for him to switch to Netflix.
The only reason I say they kind of burned the bridge is because apparently, and I could totally be wrong, but I've been hearing quotes from him talking about how they've been extremely hard to work with. And I not to, if I obviously can't speak for Zack Snyder, but I can't imagine having to deal with what he had to deal with during the making of the original Justice League, and for them to do what they did with his product. I can't imagine how much he would want to go back to Warner Brothers after that had happened. I just like, I can't even imagine. But I think he like responded to somebody in a tweet thread or something that because Warner Brothers is kind of having a rocky kind of relationship with like the DC fan base, and I I try to stay up to date because I am really interested a lot with what they're doing, because I'm trying to see if they're going the route of kind of Marvel, because it seems like they're not, but then it also seems like they are doing like contradictory like actions and stuff like that. But I don't know, only time will tell. Sorry, I'm trying to focus back on it. But someone asked him about his relationship with them and like why they were canceling. They canceled James Wan's The Trench, and then also Ava DuVernay's The New Gods or something like that.
Yeah.
Ava DuVernay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Her new film got canceled, which is insane.
Yeah. And so they just kind of pulled the rug from all that. And it seems like they're really trying to distance themselves from what Zack Snyder has spent, like the past decade trying to build up. But he responded with saying something that they've been very hard to work with, and that even when he was making the cut of his new Justice League 4-hour cut, they would still send him notes like constantly, but he would just never read them.
Well,
which is all, so
I know that he had a lot of issues with them even before he made the any of the DC movies with Sucker Punch. There was a lot of fighting about that because they ended up winning and making it PG-13, even though that he insisted on it being R. And so, there is the extended cut, which is what I watched this week. But he was quite mad about how they had to kind of tinker with his vision and almost tone it down, especially considering that Sucker Punch it deals with a lot of complex themes. And I will say that it is one of the strangest things that a major studio released in the last 10 years probably.
But that's an original piece too. That the Snyder and his friends came up with that is insane. Like that's an amazing feat.
I still haven't seen that one, but just to talk about it briefly, I watched Dawn of the Dead in preparation for Army of the Dead, and I find it hard to compare it to what it is remaking because initially, I mean, not initially, but they do feel like two completely separate kind of entities. But I really, really enjoyed Dawn of the Dead. I found it very, very entertaining and just a fun time. And I will say this, Cody, you're more versed in Zack Snyder's work, but I found it to be his most colorful film that I can kind of think of. That I see a lot of the same kind of I see his visual style still there, but I just feel like those reds and those blues and yellows kind of pop a little bit more.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
I agree.
A lot of people tend to say that Dawn of the Dead is his best movie, and it's certainly one of them. It's really, really an effective horror film. I watched it for the first time right before the Snyder Cut, and was just like really blown away. It's really, really a fun.
It's a lot of fun, and I think that a lot of people that are overly critical of it have come in with the impression that it will be better than the original Romero Dawn of the Dead, but I think you just have to kind of leave those at the door and just kind of go into it as a zombie movie from the aughts and kind of enjoy what it does with the genre, but kind of separate it from the original Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, they're two really, really different things. Like I find it hard to kind of compare them, but
they just both take place in a mall.
Yeah. Oh,
But,
isn't Sarah Polley just great in that too?
Oh yeah, Sarah
she's
Polley
very good. Yeah.
And Ty Burrell.
But to talk about color, which was one of the things that kind of surprised me about Army of the Dead, with that it was more colorful than I was expecting. I think I'm kind of a little too I'm a little too accustomed to his kind of DC look where it's a little bit more grayer and darker. Those films still have color, but they're more muted, I would say, and a little bit more gritty. But man, he is I've always found his visual style to be very interesting, but I think he I found his cinematography to be very interesting in Army of the Dead, especially with the kind of there's a part of the film where they kind of highlight this Olympus kind of a casino. I don't know or hotel or something.
Yeah, I think it's a casino.
Yeah, and it's where the zombie king and queen kind of have their horde, and it's they have this huge pool where they kind of bring, I guess, their feed or however you want to like pronounce it. And they throw it in and all these zombies come and like eat on it and everything. Some really cool imagery in there. There's one shot that kind of reminds me of The Last Supper. I don't know if you guys got that vibe.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Christ-like imagery in a Snyder movie.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
I know.
be surprised.
I'm not saying anything too new, but I just found it very, very interesting in terms of that.
I think also with Army of the Dead, I think I said this to Fulton a few days ago when we watched it together, but like I think his biggest strong suit is his openings. I think that his openings are always really good for like setting the stage of what he's like of what his angle is. Especially with like I think Watchmen is like one of my favorite openings of any movie from the 2000s, even with the use of Times They Are Changing by Bob Dylan, just kind of over a montage of just kind of the Minutemen and kind of the history of them. And it kind of gives you a nice down run. And I think in Army of the Dead, how he uses that with Viva Las Vegas, a cover of Viva Las Vegas.
There's a lot of covers.
A lot of covers. And same in Sucker Punch as well. But he uses that to kind of show how the zombie pandemic spreads. And I think it's also effective. And I just think that that's something that people should pay more attention to about how he kind of uses music.
Also, the scene before is hilarious. It's great. It's perfect. I was in the theater with a few people. All of us are vaccinated and everything. And we're sitting there, and it's really an incredible little opening right there. That this is what's happening, and this is how this happens. Really, like it's really really funny, and it's similar. It reminded me a bit of Dawn of the Dead, like that Dawn of the Dead opening. It's almost like its own little movie. It's brilliant. Like it's really really great and tight.
Yeah.
And I kind of as much I really do love the Snyder Cut. I really thought it was a great film, but I have kind of missed this type of Zack Snyder who just kind of, man, wouldn't it be awesome if we had like a zombie tiger? Like, yeah, of course it would be, Zach. Put it in there.
I mean, a lot of fun. Yeah, it's nice to see him going back to his zombie roots, and also doing something other than superhero movies, because
it also has a while. Yeah, it has a different kind of take on zombies, I feel like. And I want to ask you, Cody, because I kind of missed it, and there's a scene where these characters are having to move through kind of these tight kind of hallways, and there's a lot of zombies in there, but they're not really moving. So I wanted to ask you, what was the logic behind that? Because there may have been a line that I missed, because I was really confused why they weren't doing anything.
It said that they were hibernating. There's a line that they're like
okay,
or they're in like a sleep state. Like the zombies tend to be hibernating, but if you wake them up, then all hell breaks loose. And I think that's actually maybe the best action set piece is when that happens. Is really really exciting. I cannot remember the actress's name, but she's awesome in that sequence.
There was something else I was gonna say.
Well, both me and Fulton thought that Tig Notaro was not very well cast in the film.
Yeah,
did
that
you
was
feel the same way, or did you?
Yeah, I felt like she was more of like like putting up a front. It didn't feel genuine to me. But Chris, I have something very interesting. I'm very excited to talk about that. But I do want to hear, Cody, what your kind of take was on her role.
I thought she was pretty funny. I mean, especially given the circumstance, was like, I mean, you'll see that piece that like Dave Bautista has still not met her. Because she was digitally I mean, like, I don't know. I thought she was.
Yeah, that's
funny.
what I was going to talk about.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine.
No, but like I thought it was for the most part pretty seamless. The first scene, her introduction, I was like, okay, this was clearly filmed somewhere else. But when they actually like digitally like put her in, I thought she was really good, and I liked her. I thought she had some good jokes. I thought she was funny here. I didn't feel she was miscast, but that's just my opinion.
I didn't know ahead of time that she was added in. So I had no idea, but it's apparently that, which is funny because me and Chris were kind of like riffing on it about maybe how much we weren't too crazy about her, but they spent millions to get her into this movie to add her in. Like, I just find it funny the links that they went to put her in, but I also do want to like, maybe while her role didn't really work for me, I mean, they fooled me. Like they clearly
I had
won, and that
I mean, the fact that I had no idea or didn't even like think that something was even in the uncanny valley or a bit off I think that's a success.
It's interesting to think like in the future if this is going to keep happening. When you have an actor who certain things come out about them. I mean, of course, this happened. Ridley Scott famously did it with All the Money in the World, which I thought that was seamless. Obviously,
I actually have a poster that has Kevin Spacey's face still on it.
Oh wow, that's
Well, I don't know if you didn't talk about it in the news, but he's making he's coming back. He's going to be in a movie this year.
House 2 Cards.
I saw that dropped out. That dropped today, right? The Franco Nero film.
Yeah.
Wow. That's going to be interesting. I mean, it's interesting with Kevin Spacey because I guess there were criminal charges that were filed, but there were some situations that happened where they dropped him. So technically, I think there will be filmmakers, especially overseas. I don't think he'll ever have a career in Hollywood, but I would not be surprised if we started to see him more and more in the next few years.
Pull a Woody Allen, just kind of.
So, Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I mean, I never would. If I was Kevin Spacey, I would just be quiet. Do y'all remember when he did that weird thing in Greece at some point where he was like a statue and he was reading off like some sort of poetry? It's
Oh,
weird.
I
It
mean,
was. It went.
he does the Christmas things every year too.
Oh yeah, they're
yeah,
horrible too.
but it
Yeah.
feels really weird now given everything that's kind of come
That
out,
we
because
know about it. Yeah.
and then he did another thing where he was in character as Frank from House of Cards, and that was like, dude, I don't think this is the
This
like.
is not. Yeah.
But on a different note, Cody, I wanted to present something to you
Mhm.
because when I thought about this, I couldn't stop thinking about how perfect Zack Snyder would be for it. But me and Chris are making fun of it. Dave Bautista was he was proposed a role in the Fast and Furious films, but he has turned it down to focus on the Gears of War films. And I think Zack Snyder would be the perfect director to do a Gears of War
Oh
film.
my gosh, it would be great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to plant this seed. I want to like get it. And I
He's
don't
gonna
even know
start
if
our
it's something
movement.
that he would be interested in, but I just feel like in my heart and in my head, I think he'd be perfect for it.
He would kill it. He would
Yeah.
kill it. I almost was. Did y'all see the new Mortal Kombat movie? Did anyone see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
I didn't see
no,
it.
I definitely when I was I watched it with I was at work when we put it on, and I was like, man, I wish Zack Snyder had was behind the camera here.
That would be
I
interesting.
think he would. I think he would really kill a video game film. I think he
Mhm.
would really do a great job.
I mean, what do you mean Sucker Punch already exists, Cody?
What? Sucker Punch is it, that's not based on a video game.
I mean, but it pretty much, what I'm saying,
It
it is pretty much
basically is
a
a video.
game.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. But I was like, yeah, no, Sucker Punch is great. I love it, Sucker
Mhm.
Punch.
I still got to see that one.
You gotta see it, Fulton.
I
Yeah.
guess.
I'll watch
guess-
a Fast and the Furious movie, and you watch Sucker Punch.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I guess I just wanted to switch gears a little bit and just talk about, I watched Elaine May's The Heartbreak Kid this week because Charles Grodin sadly passed away at the age of 81. And I had been wanting to watch this film for a while, and I thought it was fantastic. I think that I watched the Farrelly Brothers remake with Ben Stiller and Malin Ackerman and who else is in that? Michelle Monaghan, like years ago when I was in high school, and I had like absolutely no idea that it was a remake of an Elaine May film. And it's just a really great premise for a romantic comedy, just about like this guy that's just a complete, he's just a, I mean, he's not a, he's just an idiot. He's just like, he marries this woman, and on their way driving to their honeymoon from New York City to Florida, he finds out that she's so annoying and he can't spend the rest of his life with her, and he falls in love with someone else on his honeymoon, and it's Sybil Shepherd. And Sybil Shepherd just knocks it out of the park because like she has that kind of like, she's just
a heartbreaker.
she's very well, yeah, she is a heartbreaker.
She's broken up. Yeah, I guess.
Well, Peter Bogdanovich broke her heart, actually.
That's true.
For the let the record show. But she's really good at just being that kind of enigmatic kind of beauty, and just like and I think it's quite interesting also looking at it. It's quite interesting looking at it as a film, kind of like The Graduate. Like I saw a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cody, what have you been kind of watching in the past week?
I watched a couple things. I watched the new Taylor Sheridan film, Those Who Wish Me Dead, which I think I mentioned it earlier. Tyler Perry, brief cameo. Was not impressed. It's certainly not nearly as interesting as something like Wind River, which I didn't love, but was certainly better. Or the brilliant, like Hell or High Water or Sicario, I think are noticeable steps up. But it's kind of this fun 90s action type of story, and there's some fun moments. There's some pretty good performances, it's worth a watch, I guess, if you're interested. But ultimately, I was pretty disappointed with it.
When the
Yeah.
trailer gave me whiplash because I was like, there's so much going on in there.
There's a
So,
lot, and it's
yeah.
short. It's an hour and 40 with credits.
That's crazy.
So it's like it's moving at lightning speed.
Mhm.
I think it was Alonso Duralde of The Rap was the one who pointed this out, so that it felt like the type of movie Clint Eastwood would have made in the 90s, with like him as somehow this old firefighter who like stumbles into it, but instead they put Angelina Jolie, and Jolie's actually like really good. You forget how good of a movie star she is. It is a little bit interesting to see her like fully done up makeup wise and hair, and she's fighting a fire, and I'm like, really, this is what you would look like? Like, I don't believe so. But you know, it could have been worse.
Yeah,
it could have been worse. That was really the big watch of this past week. There were a few other things, but nothing especially of note.
Chris, did you want to finish off your thoughts?
Just I watched Paul Schrader's Hardcore.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen that one,
and that was a great time. It checks all the boxes of what I like a movie that's set in like the seedy underbelly of like the 70s, and also just a Paul Schrader movie that's also about like just repression and just it's a very it's a very sex negative film, and it's very quite disturbing, and it's fascinating that a major studio, Columbia Pictures, actually that they financed something and released it, like, because it's like about this guy played by George C. Scott that's incredibly he's a devout Calvinist, which is drawing from Paul Schrader's own Calvinist upbringing, and he has to look for his daughter who turns to becoming a porn star, and it's just like him going through the porn industry in California trying to find her, and just kind of meeting with all these questionable actors. But it also has a interesting look on like ethics, as well as like him kind of and just him meeting these people along the way that are just completely outside of like anything that his Midwestern background or very religious community and upbringing like it's very foreign to him. So to watch George C. Scott do that is quite a great time. I would strongly recommend that one. Just don't watch it with the parents.
Would it make a good double feature with Body Double?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because
just from off that, but I don't know.
Body Double this is a very sex negative film. I find Body Double to be a very sex positive film.
That
so
is
maybe
true.
if you want them to be as like foils,
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Just to rattle off a few that I watched that I didn't get that I haven't talked about yet. Cody, now's my time to shine. I got to sell you on Fast and the Furious. So I've been going on and on about Fast Fridays. I missed the first movie, so I watched the first movie, and it's not perfect, but I do kind of really enjoy it, especially the logic that comes in on the third act, because the third act moves pretty quickly. And it's got a fun action set piece that deals with like a car heist and everything like that. But because I don't want to spoil it, but there's a scene that happens near the end where you think the film's gonna go kind of one way, and just the characters act off pure instinct of what they want to do in the exact moment, because Paul Walker and Vin Diesel are arch nemesis. You know, if you want to kind of, they have a love-hate relationship, right? So it builds up this bromance throughout the whole film, and I just love that last kind of like 10 minutes. And again, I don't want to spoil it, but that film, that last kind of act of it kind of really like is a standout moment to me for some reason. I don't know why, but I saw Fast and Furious, which is the fourth film. I don't think the franchise has a very good naming scheme, because it gets kind of confusing with, you know, but I think Fast and Furious, coming off the heels of Tokyo Drift with from what my perception is, the fan base weren't too crazy about Tokyo Drift. So this one is kind of seen as a reboot. It kind of,
Gotcha.
you have the first film that is Paul Walker and Vin Diesel and Letty and all that. And then you have the second film, which is Paul Walker, Tyrese, and Ludacris. And then you have the third film, which is completely kind of separate from the first two. So the fourth one kind of, if you want to look at it, it refocuses the franchise and goes back to Paul Walker and Vin Diesel and continues their kind of relationship. And man, this film is it's fun. It's so fun to me, man. There's I'm gonna do a little bit of spoilers just because I really I love highlighting this moment. But the first like 20 or 30 minutes, Paul Walker he's not really, Paul Walker as we know him in the Fast and Furious franchise. He's an FBI agent. He's running, tackling people down, but he's not really racing. And then a criminal comes up, because in Fast and Furious, every criminal, they have to pick their goons off of racing, right? So like an FBI like board agent's like, well, we've got a race and who's going to do it? And Paul Walker goes like, yes. He like balls up his fist and he's so excited. And you see Paul Walker light up. You see his face light up. And then he's like scanning different screens, trying to figure out which cars he's going to build and stuff like that. And then so it's just fun from as a fan that I am seeing him return to his roots and everything. Because I don't think Paul Walker is a great actor, but I kind of appreciate him. Like but yeah. And then, so Vin Diesel is, you can see him as kind of him and Paul Walker, kind of the heart of this franchise and Cars and Family, and man, their relationship is so fun to see in the action set pieces as well, particularly in the third act. Has probably one of my favorite moments that I've seen throughout the franchise this far. But I don't want to like spoil it again because it is a true. You'll probably go like, oh my god, wow, okay. But I'm sorry. I probably just like.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get to it because I want to see the new one, so I gotta watch all. I also, people keep telling me I have to watch Hobbs and Shaw, so like.
I'm a proponent of Hobbs.
I was disappointed with Hobbs and Shaw personally.
Interesting. I've had some people tell me like it is one of the funnest things they've seen.
It's
the
fun.
The trailer is amazing.
The trailer is great. All the Fast and Furious trailers are great. I remember when it's Fast and Furious 7. Is that the one when Kurt Russell starts coming into them?
Yeah.
I remember I was in theaters when that one dropped. I was like, "What? I want to see this!" Like
that was what got me into the franchise. Was that trailer? Actually, I was like, "Wow!" That when they drive the car through another skyscraper and then through another skyscraper.
I mean it.
Isn't the eighth one is the one with Charlize Theron, right? She's
the fate of the
Furious. So I recently learned they're not capping it off on 10. It's actually they're capping it off on the 11th Fast and the Furious film. So I found that interesting. I was like, well, I guess they're making up because the third film, it ties into the story of the Fast and the Furious, of the lore of the Furious, but not necessarily. It's not like a mainline entry. So maybe that's why they're doing 11. One more for the fans. But yeah, man, these films are so much fun. I highly recommend them to anyone. Because I just find it funny because as a kid watching this, I thought they were serious. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool, like what they're doing with cars and stuff. And then re-examining them and finding a new way to appreciate them has been quite. I don't want to speak too soon because I haven't I think these could be my new kind of comfort films. If I'm ever having like a bad day, I might just pop on a Fast and Furious film and I would say, it's gonna be okay, something like that, but time will tell. But
oh yeah, I was just gonna say anything else, Fulton, or should we I mean I just wanted to say, because like this is a pretty long.
Yeah, it is long. I'm sorry, I went on a rant.
No, I was just looking at the time. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
But
good.
we'll tie it up. Building off the Fast and Furious, the film that I'm choosing for next week will be Better Luck Tomorrow, which is Jason Lin's directorial debut. And I kind of want to Justin. Oh yeah, sorry. What did I say? Jason. I'm sorry. Yeah, Justin Lin. It's his directorial debut, and I kind of want to see, because I kind of look at him as a man that made Fast and Furious what it is today. I feel like he truly did make it really fun, very fun and very engaging to watch. So I kind of want to see what the man is like without having to deal with the weight of a franchise. And this is also Better Luck Tomorrow is the first introduction of Soon Kang's character Han Lu, which would become a fan favorite of the Fast and the Furious, franchise. So it's interesting to see how Justin Lin took him and kind of plopped it into the, that franchise. So yeah, that's our next feature film for next week.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Cody, and we'll see everybody next week. Talking about this Justin Lin film, and have a great week. Stay safe and stay wavy.
All right. Goodbye. Stay safe.